Welcome to this Java Break with Basis. Today is a first part of a two-part series on bridging CUI and GUI. We're going to be looking at a case study of bridging old character-based with new GUI application software. We're looking at add-on software, the packaged solution, the old character-based solution, as well as the new barista-based solution. We'll also look at some custom barista code and some custom GUI and CUI code. I'm Nico Spence, the Chief Executive Officer of Basis International, and probably best suited for this case study because the company in question is Basis. So let's have a look at our agenda. The first thing we're going to do is review Basis's internal systems, have a look at what we utilize here at Basis to run our business. We'll look at the process of moving from Pro 5 to BBJ, a step that Basis embarked upon many years ago when we first introduced BBJ. It is our practice at Basis to put our own internal systems into production with the latest version of BBJ before we release the product to the world. So we do some final beta testing utilizing our own internal business processes within the BBJ world. And interestingly enough, that spans character-based code, old Taos code, as well as the most modern Barista BBJ application code. We've deployed CUI, as I mentioned earlier. We've written older GUI utilizing the forerunner to the app builder product, the GUI builder. We've also have some custom GUI code, and we have newer code written in Barista. We also most recently have launched and are running our e-commerce application in the browser user interface world. So those of you who look to ordering product from Basis may in fact have already utilized that. You have the choice when you go to our website to launch the thin client version or the browser-based version of our e-commerce order entry system. And that'll conclude the end of part one. We'll take some questions from you. And then next time, in the next Java break, we'll look at how we replaced certain packaged add-on CUI modules with the GUI modules, how we utilize a trigger solution to facilitate that. We'll look at how we integrated all these pieces into the Barista framework. We'll look at the final product we've come up with and discuss the next steps that we may take. So let's get started. Firstly, let's have a look at Basis's internal systems. We have a history, much like any other company, of some character user interface application code, and that really is primarily based on the heavily customized add-on software version 6. So add-on software version 6 is a packaged accounting solution, and that's been heavily customized to meet the needs of Basis International. As a software company, we don't ship any physical product. We really deal with licensing of software nowadays. We in fact ship our product, make it available for download at no particular charge. It's really a case of purchasing the relevant license to run the version of the product that one requires. We're also going to look at some legacy Taos, Basis's old character-based 4GL tool, which is utilized to generate a serial number system, and we'll see the evolution of that, how it's moved to GUI. And then we'll look at the GUI modules, the web-deployed e-commerce application that's utilized by Basis customers around the world to order and to maintain their information on their products. And we'll also look at the customized GUI solutions delivered around the old packaged add-on software character version. And all of these, of course, are running on BBJ. So let's have a look at the deployment infrastructure here at Basis. We take advantage of the capabilities of the modern operating systems. We're utilizing a version of Linux, whereby we utilize the live backup database structure. We have an active router, and constant file updates are taking place between it and a backup router. And once a week we'll do a manual failover to ensure that the backup router is fully configured and ready to take over should there be a failure of the primary router. So the database is therefore backed up at all times, taking advantage of the operating system's capability to deliver constant file updates between the two database versions. And then for the applications themselves, they run off load balance servers. Again, this is all a Linux deployment in our case. And then our clients may connect from all over the world and obviously internally within Basis to the application. All of that running BBJ services. So let's look at the steps we took some 10 years back to convert from Pro5 to BBJ. Firstly, on the data front, there was no conversion necessary for the mkeyed file structures. One merely places BBJ services in control of the data. We can convert to xkeyed or vkeyed file formats, for example, invoking the convert mkeyed to xkeyed method of the BBJ file system object. That allows us to convert seamlessly from an mkeyed to an xkeyed file, and it automatically creates a backup of the original mkeyed file for us. Have a look at the documentation to see more information about how to implement this method on the BBJ file system object. And there's an accompanying Advantage article written back in, I think, 2002 that talks about the benefits and the methodology to make that conversion. So why would we do that conversion? Well, of course, there are some benefits to xkeyed file structures over the mkeyed file structure. There are no constraints on the number of keys, the number of key segments, or the size of the keys in an xkeyed file. Some other benefits are that it's more efficient, it's smaller, uses less space, and it's faster. Much faster with both SQL and read record, write record type processing. So what did we need to do to convert the packaged add-on software code? Firstly, we need to run the _keyword utility in Pro5. So it's a Pro5 utility that works against a tokenized program set. We can modify the _keyword.dat file, which actually contains the replacements for the keywords that are used in BBJ. So for example, end will default to end underscore, and you may decide to use your own value of end underscore value rather than end underscore. So you're free to make those changes. Of course, the caveat is be sure that you're not utilizing that new variable name in your existing code. You need to then execute the BBJ compiler, BBJ CPL, against the Pro5 tokens. And the option that I've listed here is to specify a file list with the @ and the -e option for error output to be sent to a log file. And we've named that log file bbjcpl.err. And we've also used the switch -N that will actually suppress changing of any tokenized code. So this will merely give us a listing of the errors that BBJ CPL will discover when applied and when run against the file lists of programs. You could specify a particular directory to write the output and the various other switches. So we can then view the error log for errors, and generally those errors would have been pre-existing errors in Pro5, and perhaps Pro5 would only have picked those up upon execution. So this is what the _keyword Pro5 utility looks like, much like any of the other utility sets that are available with Pro5. So for our next steps, if it's GUI code, what did we do to convert our custom GUI code that we'd written perhaps in Visual Pro 5? We convert the .brc, the binary resource files, to ASCII resource files via the resbuild utility. So there, have a look at the documentation. There's a very simple set of options to do a wildcard run through of all your binary resource files and convert them to ASCII resource files. And read the documentation. Specifically look at the section that talks about converting to BBJ from earlier versions of Basis products, and also look at the specific documentation on BBJ that talks about language changes and enhancements to the product. The areas you'd also want to concern yourself with are the fact that BBJ is now a true three-tiered, multi-tiered architecture structure, and make sure that your configuration is set up appropriately. And then finally, of course, test the results. Test your BBJ code against the database. Let's have a closer look at those documentation links that we refer to. If we go under Products on the BASIS homepage and go down to Documentation, we have a choice of looking at the documentation in various formats. I want to look at it in HTML. So if we click on that online version, that's the latest version that we post to the website. And you'll see this one is last revised on the 8th of February, earlier this month. So let's have a look at the BBJ specific documentation. And let's look at the converting to BBJ topic and converting to BBJ from earlier versions. And here we'll see some information relating to the steps that you can follow that we've just covered, and also some information relating to some items to watch out for. For example, if we look at item number 12 here, by default BBJ templates do not allow duplicate field names. It's rather hard to imagine how you would utilize that in a real-world application. But if you wanted to mimic that facility and override that behavior, you can change the setops byte 8-bit to 08, and that will mimic the same functionality that you would experience in Pro 5. So have a look at that structure, in particular areas where we do take consideration of BBJ's full 3-tier architecture. And also there are some options to set GUI behavior that mimics older Visual Pro 5 non-standard grid behavior. So there's a link here to changes to earlier versions that'll talk more about the environments, the GUI components, the grid enhancements that I've just referred to, etc. So look out for that sort of functionality and be aware of some of these differences. Other areas that we've touched on, we spoke about Java in BBJ, just spoke about symbolic labels, and let's have a look at some of those. We mentioned the underscore keyword is going to look for reserved keywords. If we have a look at the documentation, these are the reserved keywords that have been added to the BBJ superset of BBX programming language. And we can also then have a link to the keyword underscore keyword utility, the keyword scan, and it'll tell you more about what is available. And let's also have a look at some of that other functionality that's available in BBJ. Let's look at the Java in BBJ. The client object tutorial, we'll see this is where we can find out how we can take advantage of BBJ's ability to wrap a Java component. So if BBJ's GUI functionality doesn't deliver what you require, you can always drop through to the Java functionality and add a J component, like a J split pane in this example, or if you want a layout manager, you can take advantage of that functionality from the Java world. If you're looking for specific information, let's just go back to the BASIS website. And let's say we wanted to find out more about that method of the BBJ file system object where we wanted to convert to X-keyed file formats. So we could do a search from the BASIS website. And over here we can see that that method is described to us. BBJ file system object and the method convert mkeyed to xkeyed. And if you cut and paste this sample code here and place it in the IDE, you can very quickly see what can be executed. So let's consider some of the benefits we gain from moving across to BBJ. What Java and BBJ extensions are there to Pro 5. It's a superset of the language. And in the character-based world, the most obvious enhancements are the introduction of symbolic labels, new command line features, the ability to run the Win console, do some debugging interactively in a GUI fashion from the console, the ability to look at command search and have command history, and of course web service consumption, really nice low-hanging fruit opportunities to enhance your existing character-based solution. We have access to the full range of the SQL syntax of the basis SQL engine. And in the graphical world, we have many more GUI controls from when compared with Visual Pro 5, including the capability of running client-side objects using wrapped Java controls and features like multilingual spell checking. It has full object-oriented syntax, and we're able to embed Java both on the server and on the client side. Here's a little screenshot of the Win console for dynamic editing and debugging, ability to set watch variables, to set breakpoints within your code. So pretty nice enhancements to the older console type debugging environment that you might be familiar with. Symbolic labels, far more intuitive, less liable for errors encountered when line numbers are changed or program is renumbered, and of course BBJ doesn't require any line numbering at all. So let's also consider some of the other enhancements we can now take advantage of that are available to us in BBJ. We have the BBJasper utility, facilitates the presentation of any iReport generated or Jasper report writer generated reports that can be seamlessly embedded in your application. We have the ability to integrate a fax Java library, so we can integrate faxing within our application. We can also take advantage of a Java library to do emailing. And of course BBJabber and BBTranslate are basis supplied utilities that handle language translation and handle localization of your program output in the GUI world. BBInvoker is a utility to invoke external applications, for example the default web browser, or basically any other application that you may wish to run on the desktop can be invoked from BBInvoker, of course including BBJ programs themselves. And finally, LaunchDoc, a powerful menu utility that allows you to very rapidly put together a program launcher that resides on the desktop. It leverages the rich client-side Java object capability. So our old methodology of running the mix of modules within BASIS was to launch them from the LaunchDoc, launch these applications from the LaunchDoc via WebStart. And we had, as the various components, we have the newer Barista add-on software modules for AP and GL. We have the older character-based add-on software version 6 for the heavily customized AR modules. And we had some custom GUI code that we've written over the years to meet our business needs that have been written around the add-on software version 6 code. We also have our BCommerce web application utilized by our clients around the world to order BASIS products online and get immediate fulfillment of their orders. And then we had some custom character-based code as well. I mentioned earlier the serial number tracking system, some of which has been converted into GUI as part of an earlier conversion project. All right, let's look at what our desktop looked like when we were running various pieces of our applications in-house. Now I'm going to double click on this BASIS menu shortcut that's been created by Java Web Start. So when Java Web Start runs, it gives you the option to save a shortcut to your desktop. And double clicking on that, it'll go and check and make sure I have the latest version of the BBJ Thin client and the latest version of the application. And then launches LaunchDoc. And LaunchDoc gives me this nice graphical menu program launcher. And we can select the character version of add-on. Let's start up a few of these, the GUI version, the BCommerce, the serial number system, and we'll also launch up Barista. So here's our BCommerce launching, here's our GUI add-on. So I'll log into each of these. And let's look at serial number system. I'll just select the next record, and we can see information relating to related serial numbers, SAM, etc. So this is a custom built GUI application written in BBJ, and I think some of it might use the old GUI builder, now form builder. Let's have a look at the BCommerce application that many of you will be familiar with. This allows us to check on information on serial numbers, purchase new serial numbers, maybe upgrade to the basis product license. Let's scan next, bring up the serial numbers that I have on file. So this is normally run from the comfort of your administrator's desktop. They may want to combine a couple of licenses into a new license file type. Let's come back down here to this option. This is a Taos precursor to our GUI version of add-on that we wrote some code to manage licensing. And back down here is our character-based version of add-on, the packaged product. And if we look at accounts receivable, let's go into that, and let's go into maintenance and customer maintenance, and let's do a customer lookup, and we'll look up by name, and we'll look up basis, and we'll select basis Europe distribution, and let's do the name and address maintenance. So we have these various modules running all on the same screen, on the same desktop, and of course that looks a little bit messy. Let me log in to the Barista version, and this Barista version will have our new modules of AP and GL. And let's go and have a look at accounts payable. Let's select maintenance, and let's look at some vendor maintenance, and we'll browse through to the next couple of records, and there's one for national self-storage. So a little messy, but all the code is there. That's what it used to look like before we moved to the hybrid solution. That concludes part one of this Java break of our case study of bridging old character and GUI applications into the new modern Barista paradigm. Let's look at what we're going to cover next time. We're going to look at how we replaced standard character-based modules with the GUI equivalents in the new Barista framework. So we replaced some of the old character-based add-on version 6 modules and utilized the new Barista counterparts, and we'll show you how we integrated those with the old modules. We utilized triggers to facilitate that easy integration without having to change a line of code in the older character-based modules that we were retaining. We'll look at how we integrated all the various disparate pieces into the Barista framework. So we had one launch environment, one desktop environment, one MDI that we could run both character and GUI in a hybrid fashion, old GUI and new GUI. We'll look at how we utilized and wrote an add-on software lead-in program that did some of the housekeeping work that you might expect in a character-based world, and how we used that lead-in program to launch it within the Barista framework. Then we'll look at the final product and discuss the next steps that we're likely to embark upon. Hopefully you'll see the value from today's session, and this is the result that we'll get, where we have everything running from within the Barista application MDI framework, and we have our old modules and our new modules, and even some of our old character-based modules running in this hybrid solution. So let's take your questions.